voting because maybe it be make for me for the house, make the things be easy, but the things is worse.
We stood in lines with hope in our hands, marked our future in the shifting sands. They spoke of change, they spoke so loud. Silence follows through the crowd. Water runs where promises end, broken roads that never mend. Still we wait, still we believe in the change we cannot see. All promises in the dust we tread, voices of the words they said. We voted with hearts held high, but change just passed us by. Oh, tell me where the truth belongs, and speeches turned into songs. Is it hope or just delay that keeps our pain at bay? Children play where the lies don't stay.
The life of people in a democratic regime is contingent on their trust in those among them to usher in meaningful and lasting change, and that race has once again begun in the Republic of South Africa. Local government elections remain the most direct way South Africans can influence service delivery and development in their communities. Yet for many citizens, this democratic process is clouded by frustration as they continue to wait for promises made in previous elections to finally be fulfilled.
What do you have to tell to other people about voting?
Yeah, voting generally is for nothing.
Do you feel represented by current leaders? Do you feel like the leaders do anything for you to make a difference?
No. You want to do yourself.
They don't do for you. And why is that so?
I don't know.
So when you are living where you are living, do they worry about you?
No.
Nothing, she said, and the streets of Durban reflect that. An existence of a system that might not function as well as it should. Media professionals corroborate this, stating clearly the roles of local government and how people are catching on to what their duties are.
When you look at local government elections in a country like South Africa, I would like to separate it into two segments. The first one is, of course, the state of the economy, because whatever developments happen before and after the inauguration of any local government, it's a vote of confidence in our systems. It's also for the investors and international community to have public trust in us as institutions. And then thirdly, the rule of law. So that's the first part. And secondly, local government elections is it's about delivering the promises where people are. When we vote for provincial or national elections, we're voting for it's basically taking the wish lists that political parties sell to us as the electorate, and then it forms government policy based on each political party's manifesto. But local government is about the needs. Just to make an example, in South Africa, we've seen the resurgence of community or localized voting patterns. It started with the community of Matatiele, closer to the Eastern Cape border between KZN and the Eastern Cape, where the community was vocal in saying, we don't want to be incorporated into the demarcation system that took them from KZN to the Eastern Cape. And then we saw that political party getting a huge vote base because they were vocal on local issues. So in South Africa currently, I think the electorate has been educated enough to know the importance of this. So on those two factors, I do think South Africa today, or South Africans today, understand comprehensively what it means.
The Independent Electoral Commission says more than their direct communication, they rely heavily on the media's reach, especially in those less accessible and rural areas.
We rely on the media on all our campaigns that we run as Electoral Commission, because as the media, you have a far better reach than us as the Electoral Commission. So we have no option but to partner with the media. I'm happy that you are mentioning rural areas, because our province is over 50% rural. And we have an IEC office in every municipality, but that can never be sufficient for us to cover every single spot in our province. So we rely on media a lot, both the conventional media as well as the new media, because we have to ensure that we use whatever platform we can use for the messages to reach everyone, basically every voter in South Africa. So we cannot do it without the media.
Where the lights don't stay, dreams fade slowly, day by
The media speaks of a large gap to fill, and that a proper spotlight needs to be shown on all participants of the elections so that they remain known to the people and, amongst other reasons, can be held to account when important things go undone. A frustrated university student goes as far as confronting the would-be councillors, condemning their actions, while another speaks of their vote having achieved nothing for them, even with their qualification.
Well, from the first elections that I covered in 1999, that saw the election of Thabo Mbeki replacing Nelson Mandela, and then subsequent to that, we had local government elections in 2021. I would say the role that South African media has played has evolved over years. However, when it comes to local government, I do believe that the media has not done adequately to reflect the changes that come with it. Yeah. In South Africa, or in this province at least, we have more than half of our municipalities being on the debtors book of Eskom, because you'd find that a council owes Eskom, and they cannot go back to their consumers to say the reason we cannot afford to pay is because we come to play a buffer role to say we mediate on your behalf to the power supply utility. That is an opportunity for us as the media then to say, hey, if we do not pay our rates accordingly, the overall outcome of that, we're not going to have the lights. Even the municipality is going to be taken for litigation. So those are the minor issues that we have not drilled adequately. Also, looking at how local government in South Africa is structured, what is a priority on the South Coast, for instance, might not be the same in Umkhayabule. That's, again, another issue where the media can find that voice, someone who is championing the issues. It could be like well-known as political parties or the new players like independent candidates. The media then should focus on localized voices, give them a platform, especially independent candidates, because they are championing what affects them. They live here. When they interact with the communities, these are well-known people. It would be easier for the media post the elections to take the same candidates, whether they have won or not, take them to the same communities. People can recognize them, unlike national leaders who come to say, vote for us in a gazebo, and then after the elections, they disappear. You hear they've been elsewhere.
Being residents of a municipality, imagine as district supervisors of that municipality, you guys don't make yourself known to your people. Like, we wouldn't be able to tell you, that you are important and you are relevant to anybody else on the street, and that you could actually change our lives. Like, I feel like you guys aren't doing enough to actually help the people within your districts. You guys don't make yourselves known. I feel like you should be doing more. Go door to door, introduce yourselves, say, hey, what is the issue? What can we help you with? How can we guide you? What is it that we can assist you with, to make living here better, to make your situation better, to make this place better? And I feel like if every mayor of every district was able to do that, South Africa would be so much better. It would be so much better populated, better facilities, better in terms of just agriculture, better in in just different aspects of our way of living, you know. So it all starts within us. It all starts from small, and I feel like people don't take that into account because we all look at everything massively to like a large scale, you know, in terms of like our nationwide elections. But everything is really small, and it starts within our local elections. And if we actually took that serious, and if the people who, you know, were actually putting themselves up for election took it as serious, you know, we would be just better off as a nation. Because another thing that happens is we elect these individuals, and then before we even elect these individuals, you know, they give us false promise of, you know, we'll fix the potholes, or, you know, we'll like increase the municipality who, you know, come to pick up the trash, you know, like do all of these little like small minute things, better water, like all of these things, right? They promise us, they give us all of these grand promises, only for when they're elected to all fall through. How does that make sense? We trusted you. We put our trust in you to do something, to help us, to better us. And then you guys just disappear. To me, it's hard to trust in people who always fall short. How can us as a youth trust that our votes are going somewhere, you know? How can we trust that if we actually were to do something, something is going to happen? And that is why I feel like we're in the predicaments that we are as South Africans, because people don't want to vote because they know it's still going to be the same struggle bus, you know? And we all know the only way to make change is to do something. But what happens when you try and do something, but then we get failed by the ones who made all of these grand gestures and all of these grand promises? You guys just disappear. What happens then? What happens to our country?
Dadewethu ngihamba ma solo ngaqala ukuvota la yikho into lengikumathekako engathi imayo or ngayikhomba ukuthi hayi lokhu kwangikhokhela ukuthi ngivota akukho. Ngiyasi umsebenzi yeah, ngizothi umsebenzi especially because I'm a qualified plumber, but uthola umsebenzi konke yabona uthola umsebenzi uthola umsebenzi ukuthi yabo uzosebenza maybe 6 months sekuphelile leyo contract ayisekho seyiphelile umsebenzi like a permanent job. Yeah.
As South Africa moves closer to another election, the ballot remains a powerful symbol of hope. But hope alone is not enough. For many citizens, democracy has become a cycle of promises made, votes cast, and lives that remain unchanged. Ballots and broken promises show that real change does not begin or end at the polls. It requires accountability, visibility, and a media that continues to ask questions long after election day has passed. In communities still waiting for water, jobs, and basic services, the question is no longer whether people will vote, but whether those elected will be held to account. Until promises translate into action, democracy remains unfinished, and the voices of ordinary South Africans continue to ask the same question: when will something finally change?
Maybe one day.